Good afternoon. Today I would like to tell you about the tragedy of Medea, written by Euripides. When was it written? A long time ago. A shockingly long time ago, before anything, nearly. 431 BC. The story of Medea is one small slice of if you can imagine all of Greek mythology as one long story with dozens and dozens of chapters, right? Try to think of it that way, that Greek mythology, it's all one long, bloody, incestuous tragedy, all governed by gods with very questionable motives. And the story of Medea and her husband, Jason, is one fragment of that, I don't even know what to call it, like glorious compendium of folly and hubris and greed and lust and envy and miscalculation. One of the principal things to know before beginning this is that at the time this was written, all of Greek tragedy, as it was presented at this time, all of the action had to take place in one location as well. All of the action had to take place within a span of 24 hours, so that when you begin reading this play, you know that it is one day in the life of. So you shouldn't be at all in any way intimidated to read this play, because it's very short. It begins on page 17 with your cast of characters, and it comes to its gruesome finale on page 61. It will help quite a lot to know some of the backstory about what takes place before this little scene, this 24-hour scene between Medea, Creon, Jason, and her children. Before that takes place, Jason has been charged with this impossible quest to go and get the golden fleece. Very oft-told tale in mythology. His wife, Medea, is a sorceress. She is the granddaughter of the god Helios, the god of the sun, and she is not in a small way a very capable sorceress. She helps Jason a lot. It's not just the quest for the golden fleece. He has many quests that he has to accomplish before he gets the golden fleece. And she is helping him. Let's just say that there is no way he would be able to accomplish anything without her assistance with potions. That is very significant to the play, because what happens here, Jason and Medea and their two children are now here in Corinth. Jason has decided to abandon his wife, Medea, after all of her assistance, and he is now going to marry the king's daughter, Creon of Corinth. Why has he chosen to marry the king's daughter? That I do not know, because you would imagine that after all the assistance he got from his wife of divine lineage, he would not just turn around and abandon her, but he does. The play begins with Medea weeping sorrowfully and a bit insane with depression. And she is weeping because Jason is planning to abandon her to marry another woman. He thinks he's making a good match because he's marrying a princess and he will become the prince one day to become the king of Corinth himself. But what is to become of Medea and her two children? Why doesn't she just go home? There is a very significant reason why she cannot go home, and it is quite important to this play because it is alluded to. When Jason and Medea were fleeing Medea's father, accompanying them on their journey was Medea's brother. They would have been overtaken by Medea's father and killed. And so what Medea did, had her brother killed and had his body cut into pieces and thrown into the sea. And this would delay her father, who would want to retrieve every piece of his son's body. That is what Medea did to her own brother to forestall her father. So she cannot go home in no way. And it does tell you something about this character. She is ruthless, perhaps even a bit bloodthirsty, wholly devoted to her husband, Jason. So Medea is lamenting. She is weeping and wailing. The king of Corinth, Creon, arrives, and he tells Medea that she is banished because he knows of her magical powers, her abilities as a sorceress, and he wants her out of Corinth, never to return, because he fears for her vengeance. He assumes that she is going to take vengeance against his daughter, against Jason, somehow. And he's right. She begs him, she pleads, gets on her knees, and she begs him, please don't banish me, at least for 24 hours. And he says, even though it is against my better judgment, I will allow you that much time, but then if you are found in Corinth, you will be killed. This gives her time to lay her plans for revenge. Her husband, Jason, comes. And this is really one of the beauties of this play, is the interaction between Jason and Medea, and how he tries to justify what he has done, and how he tries to buy her off. He tries to give her some money to leave and to maybe set up in another place. He tries to put the blame on her. He tells, if she were not so fearsome, that Creon would not banish her so absolutely. In some way, her own fault that she brings this punishment upon herself. Really kind of typical man passing the blame there. That was really good to see that. 431 BC. It destroys her. She must leave, and she begs him again that she has nowhere to go. She cannot go home. She's a brother murderer. She has nowhere. Alone in the world. Jason leaves to go and have his wedding with his new bride. Into the story comes the king of Athens, who Medea begs for, sanctuary. She extracts from him like an unbreakable promise that if something were to happen in Corinth and she had to flee to Athens, will he give his solemn vow that she will be protected in Athens? And he finds this a bit odd, but he assures her that absolute promise, something untoward were to happen, that she would be able to find sanctuary. So what does she do? Well, with her diabolical practices, she creates a wedding gown that is soaked in some kind of vile poison, as well as like a crown, or not a crown, what's the other word? I don't know how to say it. Diadem? D-I-A-D-E-M? And that is also just dripping with venom. And she puts that in a box, and she gets her two children, her two sons, and she says, take this to the princess as a wedding gift, and as a bit of a concession. Like, I concede my right to this man, and I give him to you. And so she, this beautiful gown and crown, and her two beautiful boys, they take this off to the princess to give them as their wedding gifts from Medea. And what happens? Well, a messenger comes running back. He informs us that the princess was so overcome with happiness at the beauty and the splendor of her gifts that she granted a pardon, not to Medea, but to her two children. That she said that, yes, Medea has to leave, but I will allow her two children to stay, and we will raise them as our own children, which is quite a significant concession on the princess's part. And we sense that she is displaying her, sense of altruism here. And then she puts on the finery. The poison sort of burns her alive. It's horrifying. It is melting her skin, and it is just the most horrifying depiction of poisoning you can imagine. We can really feel that, her flesh was burning off of her bones. Her father, Creon, comes running in, sees what is happening to his daughter, and he tries to remove the poison gown, but it's tacky. It sticks to him, and he is also poisoned, burned, killed by Medea's treacherous poison. He dies. And that is not enough vengeance for Medea, because she has made Creon the king suffer, and she's made Jason's wife-to-be suffer, but she has not yet made Jason suffer enough. And so what she does is she kills her two little boys, dead. And just in case that weren't quite enough, she also takes their dead bodies with her as she flees for the safety of Athens. It is a horrifying bloodbath. That is the story. And Jason appears at the end. Jason appears. Medea, please, your name will live in infamy for thousands of years. And it has. But please, if you will do me one thing, at least give me the bodies of my sons, that I may grieve over them, and she refuses. She departs on a chariot pulled by dragons. It's a bit fanciful right towards the end, but that's what's written in the play. And it is explained because she is the granddaughter of Helios that she has this magical chariot all of a sudden that will take her to Athens. And that is the end of the play. She runs off. Jason is absolutely destroyed and left to grieve as he will. And the reason this play has echoed for such a long time is the idea of this woman who murdered her two children. And you might wonder, why is this horrible play? Why is it still produced? Why do people still enjoy going to watch this production? Why do we want to witness this? A lot of what makes this play great is the absolute simplicity of it. A few actors on the stage expressing how they have been wounded, attempting to come to terms with the situation that they are living in now. Jason wants to get out of there, wants to get married to a princess, wants to move Medea out of the picture. Creon, the king of Corinth, wants to get Medea out because he's afraid of her. She is not someone to be trifled with. And Medea, well, I suppose if you have the blood of gods running through your veins, tragedy is a likelihood. Is there a moral to this story? Is there something that we can learn from it? First off, I would say, don't abandon your wife. Secondly, I would say, don't take up with women who have Helios as their grandfather. A lot of it is the question of what she is willing to do to take her revenge on this man. In this society, women are weaker. They don't have any political power. They don't have any financial ability whatsoever. Like, a woman pretty much stays in the home. Without the husband to support her, she is quite hopeless in terms of being able to do anything, unless she was the queen herself, but she's not. She is a foreigner in this land who's been left by her husband. She has nothing. And that is the reason for her horrifying revenge upon Jason, in a way, the entire city of Corinth. I love this play. So if you are in the mood for some tragedy, or if you happen to be reading this for school, lucky you, because this can really get some exciting debate in the class about Medea's actions, Jason's actions. It really does help to know the backstory as it is, but remember, Greek tragedy, everything has to take place in 24 hours in one setting. So we can't have the whole bit with Jason and the Golden Fleece, and we can't have the story about Medea's father and killing the brother. We can't have that. It is spoken of. If you're unaware of that, it's going to pass you by and you're not going to quite realize, why doesn't Medea just go home? Because she can't. She will be killed there by her father. So there you go. The Tragedy of Medea by Euripides. Almost 2,500 years old. And it is still a wonderful thing if it is playing in your town. Go to see it, because it is chilling. There is some horror in that play which transcends time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Grant. This channel is called Grant Loves Books. If you would subscribe to the channel, give a like, leave some comments, say hello, that would be wonderful. Have a fantastic day. Don't kill your children. How did Medea turn out? Oh, see, that's another thing in the story too, is that the story goes on. Medea leaves. Medea goes to Athens. And what happens there? That is not to be spoken of today. Have a great day.